From the shadows on this episode of Battle Guides featuring Heketch. Heketch is a speedster who uses his amazing movement and powerful effects to crush all of his opponents really silently. However, that all comes at the cost of having generally low range, having problems with token management, and having generally low power. Heketch's unique ability is the Dark Force! Heketch starts the game with one Dark Force token, and during the anti-phase, he may ante this Dark Force token to immediately move to any space adjacent to the opponent, and gain priority +3 for that beat. Note that that movement happens during the anti-phase, so it's very, very powerful. Now, at the end of the beat, whenever there is at least 2 spaces between Heketch and the nearest opponent, Heketch regains his Dark Force token. Note that Heketch does not regain a token if he already has one. This means that Heketch will always only have one Dark Force token to work with. Heketch is a very interesting character because he's a single token character. Much like Vana, a lot of his playstyle revolves around his token. You see, Heketch's token is very powerful, allowing you to basically get in for free and be faster than almost anyone in the game. However, that does come at the cost of having a very, very awkward regain condition. You see, Heketch has no way of regaining his Dark Force token outside of an Overdrive Finisher and his unique ability. This means that you have to always be at least range 3 from the opponent if you want to get your Dark Force back. Now, that wouldn't be much of a problem if Heketch wasn't a purely melee character. So, this is the thing about Heketch. It's all about going in, hitting, and then going out. The biggest thing about Heketch is you need to try to regain your Dark Force as often as possible because a lot of your styles and a lot of your plays revolve around having that Dark Force token. So, in the end, it's very, very simple. All you really have to do is, when you use your Dark Force token, try to do a certain attack pair that will almost always land you at range 3 from the opponent. That way, you regain your Dark Force token on the beat that you use it. Merciless is a powerful card. It has range +0 to 1, power -1, but the effects on the card are the thing you really want to look at. Passively, if your opponent switches sides with you, you can make them stop in their tracks and make them lose 2 life. This is very powerful because it basically acts as an innate dash counter, and if your opponent does move around a lot, doing this will stop them right dead in their tracks and keep them close to you, where you usually want them because it catches a melee-oriented character. It does have an after-activating effect as well, that basically states that if Heketch has his Dark Force token, opponents can't hit him anymore. This means that as long as Heketch is faster than them, opponents can't hit him if he has his Dark Force. This means that the slower bases such as Burst, Shot, and Strike have a hard time hitting Heketch, especially if Heketch pairs this with some of his faster bases. Now, when it comes to attack pairs, this pairs very, very well with Grasp. Not only because of the fact that it's fast and allows you to activate the after-activating effect more often, but it allows you to pull your opponent. You'll see where that goes. On the other hand, you can also pair it with Heketch's unique base, Knives, because it has good stats and it's generally fast, and oftentimes it has range 1 to 3, and that's magical range. And it's very, very powerful, especially because of the after-activating effect. Next up is Rasping. Rasping has range, yes, negative power, and positive priority, meaning it's a generally fast style, especially if you have your Dark Force token anti. However, you may not want to anti because on hit at range 1, you can spend your Dark Force token for +3 power, which means that this attack can possibly deal +2 power, considering the negative on the style, in terms of damage. This means that Heketch can deal 5 on average, or 6 when he uses his Strike and or Knives. Now, on damage, Heketch can regain life equal to half the amount of damage he deals, rounded up. This means that Heketch trades really well when using a Rasping, because if he hits the opponent for 3, he will heal for 2, and that's an effective life gap of 5. And that's very, very good, especially on a speedster character like Heketch who doesn't have a lot of defenses and soak. This is a very powerful attack, and I highly recommend using it when you can. Now, when it comes to attack pairs, I highly recommend pairing this thing with Drive to give it the hit confirm it needs, or Knives if you really want to deal a lot of damage with this attack. Next up is Assassin. Assassin has no stats because the best parts of it are all in the effects. On hit, Heketch can retreat any number of spaces. And then, on damage at range 1, Heketch can spend his Dark Force to make sure that the opponent can't move. This means that if he does it correctly, he can make it so that his opponent can't dash him. And that's very scary, especially if Heketch gets to use his very powerful styles in the next turn, getting a big payout attack even if it's just 4 to 3 damage. Now, don't forget that by retreating, you are also able to regain your Dark Force token. And that's what Assassin is amazing for, because it allows you to retreat any number of spaces. Not only can you dodge enemy retaliation, you get your Dark Force token back. It's a deal. It's really good. I no exaggeration, seriously. Now, when it comes to attack pairs, I highly recommend pairing this thing with Knives. See, the thing about Knives is that it's a really powerful base, but it does not stun at range 1. If you use your on hit to retreat, you're no longer at range 1 when you deal the damage. Simple and easy, it's a very powerful attack. However, if you want to change things up a bit, you can pair it with Drive to give it the hit confirm it so desperately needs. Next up is Critical. Critical has negative power and positive priority, making it another fast attack. One great thing about this is that it ignores stun guard, and as a general speedster who doesn't have a lot of damage on his hands, well, relatively speaking, this is really powerful because anybody with any amount of stun guard will just get stunned, and being a speedster type character who likes to weave in and weave out, that's very good because it prevents your opponent from retaliating against you. Now, on hit at range 1, you can spend your Dark Force token yet again to get power plus 3, and this is a very powerful attack. You basically hit the opponent and stun them. That's it. And it deals a lot of damage generally speaking. Now when it comes to attack pairs, I highly recommend pairing this attack with Grasp because Grasp takes advantage of the speed, and even if Grasp deals little damage, it will almost always stun the opponent. However, if that's not your thing, you can pair it with Drive. Drive allows you to give this attack the hit confirm it needs, and of course, since the on-hit only activates at range 1, driving into your opponent is a great way to make sure that that happens. Next up, we have Psycho. Psycho has +1 priority, meaning that it's generally fast. But the best, and I mean the best part about this style, are its 2 effects. Now, Psycho is my favorite Heketch style because, start of beat, you advance until you are adjacent to the nearest opponent. This basically means that Heketch can get in whenever the heck he wants, and he will ruin your day because this thing is not only fast, it has +0 power, meaning that it can deal a lot of damage when paired with the right base. However, that's not enough, because end of beat at range 1, Heketch can execute his attack again. Note that when you execute your attack again, you only perform before activating until after activating effects. This means that you don't get to repeat start of beat and end of beat effects. Makes sense, right? This basically means that Psycho allows you to double whatever the damage of your base is. Need I say more? It's really powerful. Now when it comes to attack pairs, I highly recommend pairing this thing with Strike, because you get in really fast and you double strike. It deals 8 damage. Or if that's not your thing, or feel like your opponent can be faster than you, pairing it with Grasp can be quite powerful as well. Just know that when you hit them with the Grasp effect, pull them towards you so that they're still adjacent to you, so that you can still use the end of beat effect to hit them again. And finally, we have Heketch's unique base, Knives. Knives is a very powerful attack. In fact, it's so powerful, it nearly breaks all of the magic numbers. See, it's range 1 to 2, which is just shy of magical range 1 to 3. It's power 4, which is the magical number for power. It's priority 5, which is nearly the magical number for priority. In fact, it's so powerful that it's unfair. However, that is set off by the fact that you can't stun opponents at range 1, but again, you win priority ties. This basically counts as a priority plus 0.5, so that's very good because that means it still beats out your opponent's Grasp. Now, this attack is very powerful, but also very dangerous, because even if it does hit for a lot, it's basically a souped up strike. Even if it hits up for a lot, you won't stun the opponent, which means that if your opponent retaliates against you, you oftentimes don't win out on the trade. Now when it comes to attack pairs, I highly recommend pairing this thing with Assassin because it's just that good and it allows you to stun the opponent, which is something you usually can't do. Or pair it with Merciless because Merciless allows you to be really fast, dodge your opponent's attack no matter what amount of stun guard they have, and of course it gives you the magical 1, 2, 3 range. Heketch's 2 Overdrive Finishers are Million Knives and Living Nightmare. Million Knives is a killing Overdrive Finisher that has generally long range, average power, and high amounts of priority. On hit, Heketch advances 1 space. Then if you moved and are not adjacent to the opponent, Heketch repeats this attack. This basically means Heketch gets to repeat it 1, 2, 3 times at most. This is a very powerful attack because it technically just reads range 1 to 4, power 12, prio 7. If your opponent doesn't have a way to deal with your overdrive, you basically knock them out most of the time. It's a very powerful overdrive and it scares a lot of people. Note that Heketch is always generally at range 3 from you because that's where he gets his Dark Force tokens back. Having Million Knives available to him makes him really scary because Heketch usually does not have long range plays, but with Million Knives in his hand, he does, and just having the attack is more than enough to scare opponents into playing sub-optimally. However, if that's not your thing, maybe Living Nightmare is your thing. Because on hit, Heketch stuns the opponent and for the rest of the duel, no matter what, you will regain your Dark Force token. Which basically means that you ignore the condition for regaining your Dark Force token. You just gain it. Period. That's very powerful because Heketch can stay next to his opponent every single beat and still gain the bonus priority from his unique ability. And that's very powerful. However, it only has priority 2 and a melee range. But that might not be a problem because remember, like many characters in this game, Heketch's antis still apply to his Overdrive Finishers, which means that you can get into melee range and have priority +3 when performing Living Nightmare. And that is a very powerful thing, especially if you have a lot of beats left to get the biggest mileage out of it. However, seeing as you're usually at 7 health when you can access to your Overdrive, it might not be the best upgrade Overdrive Finisher out there. Now let's move on to the part that everybody loves, Heketch Advanced Strategies and Combos. Heketch Advanced Strategies can be basically summarized into the 2 points I told you guys earlier. It's quite simple. Play attacks that allow you to use your Dark Force and then regain your Dark Force in the same turn. It's as simple as doing stuff like grasping them far away from you, or using your assassin to retreat, or even bursting to retreat if you're in melee range. Small things like this allow you to optimize the amount of beats you have your Dark Force token up. Remember, as a single token character, having your Dark Force is your life and blood. So always get it back to harass your opponent to death. And number 2, Heketch is a master of 2 ranges. You see, Heketch, although being a melee-oriented character, loves being far away from his opponent because of his unique ability. Now, Heketch takes advantage of this by making his opponent guess. You have to tell yourself, is he gonna teleport in or not? Because a lot of the time, long-range attacks are generally poorly statted. They're usually slow, have stun guard, and something like that. In fact, some of them might even have minimum range, and that's a big problem. If Heketch teleports inside and uses something like a strike or a grasp, most people are done for because their long-range attacks don't have things to account for instant teleports in. This means that Heketch basically traps people in a weird vortex. Is Heketch gonna stay at range? or is he gonna teleport in? Now, that being said, Heketch doesn't have a lot of strong options at range, but the mere fact that he can hit you and deal 3 damage for free is a big thing. If you can make your opponent waste their strike on the turn that you don't teleport in, you've just won a beat for pseudo free. And that's very, very powerful. Try to capitalize on that as much as possible because that is the biggest way Heketch gets a lot of mileage out of his attack pairs. And number 3, which I didn't mention, is the fact that you need to keep constant pressure on your opponent. Note that you don't always have to regain your Dark Force every beat. Sometimes dashing into your opponent and just staying there so that you can hit them with a big payout attack like your critical or rasping the next beat is quite a powerful tactic, especially if the opponent doesn't have a lot of priority to contest your generally above average priority. So note that that's a very powerful tactic to use against non-speedsters. Now let's move on to some Heketch combos. Number 1, Assassin Knives. Not only does this attack sound freaking cool, it's very powerful. You basically Assassin Knives and then you anti your Dark Force token. To teleport next to your opponent, you hit them, retreat a lot of spaces or just enough so that you can get your Dark Force back. Then you hit them for 4 damage and that usually stuns them and you get your Dark Force token back. It's amazing because it basically acts as a free hit. You get in, you have an 8 prio attack, you whack them for 4 and then you leave. Simple as that. Next up is my favorite, Psycho Strike. Psycho Strike is very powerful and you basically teleport next to your opponent. Note that you should not anti your Dark Force with this attack because you want to use it for the end of beat effect that allows you to repeat your strike. If that does not impress you, I don't know what will, quite honestly. And finally, we have Critical Drive. Critical Drive might not be as impressive as the other 2 attacks, but it gets a lot of mileage against slower opponents. If your opponents can't reach your 5 priority, you get in, you hit them for 5 damage and they're stunned no matter what they do. It's 1/4 of their health. I mean, seriously, it's a really, really good attack and you don't have to commit a Dark Force to do it. It's pretty good and it has good range on it, so it's pretty powerful. And that pretty much does it for this episode of Battle Guides featuring Heketch. If you like this video or like the character or like the game and find it interesting, check the description out below for more games and stuff about level 99 games. If you want to join our community or talk to me or any of the other BattleCON veterans, check the description out below and you'll find the links there. If you want to send me an email or give me a comment or whatever, my email's in the description, and you can go to the comment section down below and ask me a few questions about this character. Heketch is one of my personal favorite BattleCON characters because of how elegant his design is. You see, a lot of his effects are really simple. It's just more power or your opponent can't move and stuff like that. But they all revolve around his 1 token. And it's very, very interesting to see the trade-offs that you get. Do I use my token for the anti-effect or do I use it to get these power +3s that are really, really amazing? And not only that, but he has a lot of cool emergent combos. Simply put, for example, his Assassin Knives is quite powerful because it allows him to just get in, hit, leave, and get a free attack in. Heck, even something like a critical burst and then anti your Dark Force token can be quite powerful because not a lot of characters can break 5 priority, ironically. So that's very, very, very good when it comes to using Heketch, and he's one of my personal favorite characters, and I hope all of you enjoyed this guide. Now, without anything else to say, don't forget your special action, and thank you, World of Indines. Thank you, and good night.